First video filmed on the brand new camera. Hey guys, I'm Angie Designs and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So a question I've actually gotten quite a bit recently, especially after I put out my Ravio video, was how do I handle cosplaying in public? Just being in full cosplay in a non-convention setting, a setting where people are not expecting to see people in cosplay. How do I deal with that? So these tips that I'm about to give are not exactly for your convention settings. It's not for when you're at a con. These tips are more so for when you're dealing with people who aren't expecting to see you in cosplay. Such as maybe going to a photo shoot, like with my Ravio cosplay, going to a smaller scale event, an event where there's maybe only 10 or so people, a private event or anything like that, or just hanging out if you just want to hang out and cosplay at the mall. This also could apply to when you're in full cosplay on public transport, whether it's the bus or anything like a metro. Passerbys are noticing you in costume and they're still not expecting you. So any of these tips could still go with that. So tip number one, always have other people with you. Not necessarily cosplayers, but someone that you're comfortable with and comfortable talking with. So maybe a best friend or even a parent or someone like that, a sibling. It helps to have someone to distract yourself with so you're not always kind of feeling the prying eyes as people are looking at you. So you can talk to them and not always be hyper focusing on them. Focusing on a friend is much better than focusing on strangers. Tip number two, depending on the situation, if you know you're going to a public picnic event, for example, wear your smaller cosplays. Sometimes it's unavoidable because maybe you're gonna be photo shooting a big costume at a big location, and well, obviously you're not going to change the cosplay just for the sake of comfort because the idea is to photo shoot that cosplay. But if you're just going to hang out at the mall or going to a small photo shoot event, start with characters that have more normal looks to them. Characters that are a little less extreme. I would have called my Ravio cosplay a little bit more on the extreme style because it's not every day you see a purple-haired boy with a long robe and a giant bunny hood on his head. That was a little weird. I got a few looks for that one, even if it wasn't a big extravagant cosplay. Good examples of characters that kind of fit in with more normie attire are your My Hero characters wearing their UA uniforms, for example, or several Danganronpa characters. Did I even say that right? I'm not sure. But several Danganronpa characters also have very kind of normal looks, like plaid skirts and button-up shirts and things like that. They're not super extravagant, even if they are a little bit more colorful than real life people. These are pretty good because they're not quite as attention-getting, so it helps you kind of get into the groove of cosplaying in public. Tip number three, have some talking points ready for in case you have to talk to strangers. Interactions with strangers could happen, and they oftentimes do. Some common questions they might ask are, what are you doing? Why are you dressed like that? What's the occasion? And just general other questions like that. And here's the thing, you as a cosplayer do not owe anyone your time. It is not your responsibility to just explain to everyone who asks. So just remember that. So if someone's being a little pushy about the questions, just please remember it's not your job to do that. Just because you're dressed differently doesn't mean you owe anything to anyone. But in some situations you might feel okay with discussing with them. So have a few responses ready to go. Just a little, oh, we're doing a photo shoot, or we're filming some content for the internet, or we're just having fun. You don't need to always explain what cosplay is, but sometimes you can explain, oh, we're dressed as characters from a show we really love to make some fun videos. Sometimes just as simple as, we're having a good time dressed in cool costumes. You don't need to go into full detail. Sometimes people are really kind about this, and genuinely I find there's more positive experiences than not so positive experiences with random people asking you questions. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Now it may depend on where you are exactly. My local community has a lot of people who aren't used to things that are very different, yet I still found most of the interactions were very kind. For most situations though, a simple answer, few words is gonna be all I wanna know to just go on with their day. And if you are the cosplayer and you're actually really uncomfortable with these kind of situations, that's another good point of having a friend or someone else with you. Maybe they're a little bit more outspoken and they can actually do like the talking part to the people for you. Tip number four, keep public decency laws in mind and other rules of wherever you're going in public. Some characters, especially from 18+ media, are a little risque. Some are practically in bikinis or completely shirtless, depending on the character. Depending on where you live, what country, what province, what state, etc., or even the city, there could be rules about what you're allowed to wear. You might not be allowed to wear just a bikini top in the mall, for example. And a lot of facilities have no shirt, no shoes, no service kind of rules as well. And it's the business or the facility's rules, so please do not break those. I'm the kind of person who thinks everyone should be able to wear whatever they want, but there is a time and a place for certain things, and there's also other people around. You don't want to get cops called on you because you're wearing 18+ gear out to the mall kind of thing, right? Tip number 5, be sure to cover any prop weapons you might have. Even if they're not prop weapons, props in general can be a little alarming to people. Even a staff like this one, some people might be a little alarmed by it and be a little intimidated by it if I'm out in public carrying this around. Sometimes they can get mistaken for real weapons, and that's when you can get into some legal issues. The cops could get called and you could get in a lot of trouble, even if it's not a real weapon. And even if you're in an open carry state, for example, you can still get in trouble for this kind of stuff. You don't want to make people uncomfortable with your fake weapons, and you also don't want to get in trouble with the law. There have been so many situations where the cops were called on cosplayers because they had real looking weapons or even super fantastical fantasy looking weapons, and people thought they were carrying real weapons. It's not a very fun situation, so if you have a prop like that and you're going to your photo shoot or something, make sure you cover it to get it there. Tip number 6, be confident. I know this one takes the most practice probably about any of these. It's way easier said than done. It takes practice and it takes getting used to just wearing something different out in public where people might be looking and staring at you. But I can guarantee eventually it gets easier and easier and you get more comfortable with it. I used to always be super nervous that people were staring at me. I used to be always nervous that people thought I was weird. I used to always be nervous about all those types of things. But eventually, with a lot of practice and going to a lot of events and photo shoots, I just kind of got used to it, and now I just kind of own it. Sometimes I find if you're walking around confidently, sometimes it'll be like, oh, this person's supposed to be there sort of thing. But if you're in a full cosplay and acting super nervous, like, oh my god, people are looking at me, people will kind of notice the uncomfort and just kind of assume that whatever you're doing is definitely weird. The kind of idea is go around being confident and people will sometimes just think you're supposed to be there kind of idea. You can kind of see this example in my Ravio photo shoot video where there are definitely people staring in the background, sitting at the restaurants kind of off to the side, sitting on the patios of the restaurants outside and everything, very much staring at me. But I just kind of walked around like it wasn't any big deal. And they're just kind of like, okay, well that's a thing, and went about their meals. But it no longer bothers me like it used to. I know my go-to answers for certain questions. I know how to deal with these things a lot better now. And of course, I always use that buddy system because I much prefer focusing on my friends than I do focusing on random people staring at me 20 feet away. So I know these tips are not exactly the greatest kind of tips to just go out tomorrow to the mall and cosplay, because some of these take practice, they take a lot more organization because you gotta organize and plan with friends and stuff, but honestly, practice makes perfect in this kind of thing. It's almost like a whole other skill in cosplay. So I hope that these tips help you guys in order to be more confident in going out and about. These are just some of the things that I do. So if you're a cosplayer who's used to going out in public and cosplay as well, tell me in the comments, what kind of skills, what kind of methods do you use to feel better about it, to go out in public confidently? Let me know, because I know it's a little different for everyone. And everyone else, go check out the comments, see what everyone says. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful, and be sure to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. See you guys later.